everybody, and welcome to another episode of Poddywood, the podcast where we talk about movies and all kinds of movie-related stuff. I am one of your co-hosts, Steve Hester, and joining me, as always, is...
Well, that'll be me, Andrew Roger Carson. Shorter hair this week, same glasses, full of Northern pride and Eastern promises.
Ooh, and speaking of Eastern promises, it's time to delve into what's in the box from last week. A movie from 2007.
Of course it was.
Yes. Off goes the 2007 alarm.
Yes, I'm not seeing that pop up on screen for a few weeks.
I know, it's ridiculous, isn't it?
It
But
is.
yes, 2007, the year that I forgot. And this is a David Cronenberg film.
Yes.
About a Russian mafia family and how their sins end up catching back up with them. Now, I am going to be going into spoilers with this. So if you don't want to know the ins and outs of the plot, then just head to the timestamp below. Or go to this time here. And then you can get our final thoughts on the whole movie. But for now, let's get into it. So if you're listening to this, then you don't care about spoilers. So yeah. Viggo Mortensen plays a man called Nikolai, who is the
token Russian name. We need a Russian name in this script. Nikolai. There we go.
Nikolai. Uji Nikobolikov. It's a classic playground one, that though, isn't it?
Yes.
And he plays a driver for this Russian mob family, and the patriarch Herman Mueller-Stahl, is that his name?
It's Armin. It says Armin Mueller-Stahl.
Yes, and his son. Now it's either Kirill or Cyril, because it gets pronounced in two different ways in the film.
I just know him as Gino Bolognese.
I know, yes. Vincent Cassel, the wonderful Vincent Cassel, who me and Andy both know as Gino Bolognese from the Bottom movie, Guest House Paradiso.
Gino Giuseppe Gianluca Bolognese.
I told you I was good all in.
I know. Oh, I love that film. It's so terrible, but it's wonderful.
That's Vincent Cassel, for God's sake.
I know. It's the guy that was in, what is it, Irreversible? Was it Irreversible?
Must be. I know he was in like the Ocean's 11 movies. And
Yes.
He's done a ton of foreign cinema.
Yeah, married to he was married to the goddess that is Monica Bellucci.
Yes.
But anyway, he plays Kirill or Cyril, the mob boss's son, and then into this world comes a doctor, Anna, who treats a woman who is admitted to the hospital with severe bleeding, who dies on the operating table, but gives birth to a daughter, and then it's her job to try and track down who the father is of this little baby girl, and in doing so she uncovers this horrible family secret that this Russian mob has been trying to keep covered. And it's a David Cronenberg film, and we went over this last week. David Cronenberg is known mostly for his body horror things like, Videodrome and Scanners and The Fly, all things where people just look icky and horrible and you kind of want to have a wash. And as I'm recording this, I said The Fly, and there is a fly crawling across my screen. Jeff, you're back. So yeah, this is weird coming from him because it doesn't feel like a David Cronenberg film.
Yeah, I mean, he does do these movies separate from the body horror that are exceptionally good. And this one follows on from A History of Violence, also starring Viggo Mortensen, which was based on a comic book, actually.
Yeah, and I think I said it before in one of our earlier episodes, it was the last mainstream Hollywood movie to be released on VHS.
Very true.
But this one, it's set in Britain, which was a surprise to me. I wasn't expecting that.
It was David Cronenberg's first ever time filming outside of Canada.
Oh, is that righty?
Yeah.
there are some times watching this where it doesn't feel like... I know he doesn't really do kind of Hollywood movies, but it doesn't even feel like an American/North American movie. It felt like a British film.
Yes.
With all the low-key trappings that a British film has. Lots of rain, very, very stalwart workhorse actors that come in and know their craft, that give very, very measured performances. But it kind of felt at times like it wasn't really... It felt like it was kind of missing an edge to it at parts. Part of it felt a bit ponderous, and I was kind of waiting for things to build, and they do towards the end. But even then, it feels like you're waiting quite a while to get there. Everything that happens in the bathhouse, where you see Andoril, Flame of the West,
the tattoo,
well and truly on display.
Yes, I was going to ask you about that, if you noticed it.
I was actually talking about the sword, which was reforged from the shards of Narsil.
Not the pork sword. That was prominently on display in that scene.
But yes, on his arm, on his left arm, or right, I don't know, depends on where you're watching this, he's got a little tiny tattoo, which all the members of the Fellowship had. So that's the four hobbits, Orlando Bloom, Viggo Mortensen, Ian McKellen, and not John Rhys Davies. He didn't get a tattoo. He sent his stuntman to get the tattoo on his behalf.
Never
but they all have... No, you never ink a dwarf, no. And it says the 9. And I noticed it. And I noticed it because I was looking for it, because I knew that this was released after Lord of the Rings.
The question I'm going to ask you now, Steve, is did you know where that tattoo was, or were you taking a really good hard look all over Viggo during that scene?
Well, he gets his shirt off in a number of scenes. There's one scene where he's at a brothel, and I didn't see it then. But then there's another scene where he's getting inked, because during in the Russian mob culture, the tattoos that you have, according to the film, tell the story of your life. They say, what gangs you're a member of, whether you committed certain crimes, whether you're in this prison or that prison, and so on. So he has these tattoos all over his body. So I was looking for it, and then lo and behold, there's a scene where he's like in front of the major Russian mob bosses, and he's got his shirt off. He's just there in his underpants, and you can see it on his arm.
Gentlemen, say hello.
And then, of course, there's the fight in the bathhouse where he's hanging Brain and whacking it all over the place. Which, I've got to say, has... And if this is a real practical effect, my hat is off to the people that did this. One of the most explicit eye stabs that I have ever seen. And it's done... I can't tell if it was actually done digitally, or if it was done with a prop knife, maybe, but
it's flawless.
It is. The knife changes hand to hand to hand, and then they're fighting on the floor, and a guy gets stabbed in the eye, and there's loads of blood which comes out. But the way that it's done, like you say, it's absolutely flawless. Yeah. Superb.
I've got to admit, that was a wince-inducing moment when I watched it again this week as well. I was like,
oh, definitely.
I kind of forgot that. You kind of forgot to mention here, the nurse is played by Naomi Watts, pulling off an amazing British accent.
Oh yes, she falls into that role. Absolutely, she sounds incredibly believable as a Britisher. To the point where I didn't even question her accent at all throughout the whole thing. And I don't really know Naomi Watts that much.
Well, she was actually born in England, but then moved to Australia very, very young. So she is not a naturally born English person, raised in Australia.
Oh, well, hush my mouth.
I know. I found that out on Poddyblog, which you can go to poddyblog.glom and read the...
.glom?
.glom. It's my Russian coming out.
Not.
Yes, poddyblog.com, and there is a section there on called Foot in the Door roles, and we covered Naomi Watts' first ever role, which was in an Australian movie, and you can check that out.
So, yeah, and the story comes to a head, and like I said, spoilers, it turns out that Nikolai has been working for the FSB, which is the Russian Secret Service, would you say?
Yeah.
Like their equivalent of the CIA or the Secret Police, one of the two, and he's trying to infiltrate the Russian mafia in the UK. And the big question is, the way that it all ends, is he actually going to be carrying out his thing of wanting to take down the mafia from the inside, or, as it appears, is he now going to be solidifying his position as the new leader of this particular arm of the family?
It is left
up for interpretation.
It is left incredibly open, because I feel like the movie ends out of nowhere at one point. It's building up to a thing, and you're thinking that you're going to see Armin Mueller-Stahl get his end or something like that, and it doesn't happen.
No, the closest that you get to that is a more of an emotional confrontation between him and Vincent Cassel, when the latter is trying to kill the baby, which is the root cause of all the strife, by drowning her in the Thames.
Yes.
You do expect there to be this butting heads between the two, but like you say, it never happens.
No. Well, as we mentioned, with David Cronenberg, he doesn't do things by your typical narrative structure. It's like David Lynch in that way. But when you look at Cronenberg stuff, like The Fly that we mentioned, hope the flies escaped now, was not drowned in your drink. But also you look at films like Dead Ringers, EastEnders, Crash, all of these movies.
Speaking of which, just to briefly derail you, Dead Ringers has now got a TV series.
Oh, don't.
Starring Rachel Weisz as in the Jeremy Irons roles. So I noticed it today. I just thought I'd bring that up.
There's too much stuff being made into TV series now of stuff that should just be left well alone. And Dead Ringers is one of them, because it is an amazing movie. So naturally, I did a bit of listening on some audio commentaries, done a bit of behind-the-scenes research. And this has a link to 2 other occasions we have spoken about on this show in the past. Now, remember way back when we talked about Billy Zane going to buy comics in his full Phantom costume, and then you mentioned about Viggo Mortensen, was it going to a pub in his Lord of the Rings gear or something along those lines?
I think he'd gone to a gym or a restaurant or something,
Yes.
and it would just come out full Lord of the Rings gear, swinging the sword, practicing his moves, and the police called.
Yes. Well, during the filming of this movie, Viggo Mortensen decided to go to a bar in full costume with full tattoos and the lot. And he was listening to 2 Russian men who were talking and kind of just honing in on their mannerisms. And these 2 Russian men saw Viggo, noticed the tattoos that he had on his hands, and genuinely believed he was a member of that Russian mafia.
Okay.
Yes.
Easily done, because, he looks the part. He looks properly intimidating.
Oh, yeah.
He's wearing all these very nicely tailored suits and just looks very, very straight, flat, not expending much in terms of energy, just...
Well, to be honest, I mean, Viggo's research into this character was completely faultless. I mean, he did extensive character research, including learning both Russian and Ukrainian languages that he used in the movie. So when he's talking to the prostitute in that scene, he switches from Russian to Ukrainian. Those English-speaking people, we don't notice it, but he does do it. So he learned both of them, and he travelled all over Russia and Ukraine and everything and did extensive research for his character. That's how much of a workhorse that guy is. And it pays off. The nude bath scene, as we've already mentioned here, which I think everyone remembers from this movie when you kind of bring it up, that was actually Viggo's suggestion that he do it naked. So I think he had something to prove on that day and to make it more realistic. And, he went fully for it. Apparently, the inspiration for his character and mannerisms and everything was based on, who else? Vladimir Putin.
Yay!
Because that's exactly who you want to be. I did notice some other fantastic little things in here. One that actually jumped out at me when I was watching the movie, and I never noticed it before. So there is the scene where Gino Bolognese
Gino Giuseppe Gianluca Bolognese
is showing off. he's showing off all of this alcohol that he's got in the back of the truck. Written on the side of the truck is Arthur Clegg. Now, if you know the story of Arthur Clegg, he was a real man who was suspected of murdering his newborn granddaughter and possible daughter by incest by throwing her into the Thames. So that was a curious little nod to history.
Oh.
Just tattooed on the side of the truck. Viggo Mortensen almost won the Oscar for Best Actor for this movie.
Who got it that year?
2007. Let me think. I'm trying to think of all the films we've watched on What's in the Box.
It's not going to be any of them.
Well, I'll tell you what we'll do is we'll put a little clip of the winner right here.
Daniel Day-Lewis, and There Will Be Blood.
And that's who it was. We'll find out when you find out, people. There you go. Did you notice something incredibly curious for a mafia police crime movie?
There's a wimpy.
There is a wimpy. Oh my god!
For those of you who don't know, in the UK, particularly back in the 70s and 80s, there was a fast food, in very inverted commas, chain called Wimpy.
Come on over to my place. Hey you, we're having a Wimpy.
And it only seems to exist in very, very select places now, and it's a point of ridicule. And yeah, he's there. I'm just it's like they're doing a hostage exchange in the cheapest, shittiest kind of fast food restaurant you can
if you're gonna do it to Wimpy, because you can't really sink any lower, can you? No. My point was being, did you notice there is not one gun in this movie?
Yes, I did.
It's all knives, which apparently is incredibly authentic.
Yeah, well, that makes more sense if you're like you're caught and you've got a gun, then you're like I use it to go hunting. But if you've got a knife, you can say that I work for my granddad's butchers.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I gut fish.
And that is exactly what they would do, which is why that is very authentic, apparently. Focus Features, who did the movie, scrapped the plans for the intended sequel to this. So there was supposed to be a follow-on. And apparently when David Cronenberg was asked about it at some kind of convention or some kind of interview, he'd be like, oh, you'll have to ask the people at Focus because they killed it. But with this film, I mean, it was very, very well received. The sound is great. The production design is flawless by Carol Spire. Very tightly edited movie as well. By Ronald Sanders. Sorry, I thought you were going to add something there because you were nodding your head.
No, I wasn't. I was going to say, if you're going to be reeling off people, there's one name which I did recognise, which was Stephen Knight, who wrote this movie and is also responsible for Peaky Blinders.
Yes. Yeah, very true. Your cinematography is great. Peter Susitsky, I believe was his name. Music by Howard Shaw, which is great. And if you're going to go into your roles, you've got to say Viggo Mortensen, Naomi Watts, Armin Mueller-Shaw, they all own it. And Gino Bolognese himself.
Gino Giuseppe Gianluca Bolognese.
Vincent Cassel. I can't help the fact that his name is Gino Bolognese. I'm sorry.
No.
I still envision him in that role. Kate's across the room laughing as well, just because I've said it.
Watch that language if you can. We're trying to keep this PG, all right?
So, Eastern Promises. Recommend?
Recommend, yes. Worthy of it being certified fresh. It's a slow film, and I don't really think it needs to be this slow. There's a number of times where I think there would need to be something else, some kind of a bit more energy injected into it. Not necessarily action, but more energy. And if it had that, then yes, I definitely give it a definite certified fresh. But as it stands, yeah, give it a watch. It's you at least get to see what the king was returning with.
All those Canadians are going to be so mad with you, eh?
Well, I'm sorry about that, eh?
Anyway, it is around that time that we delve into some anniversaries.
We watch them again all of the time, or we get them on Prime for free. But we only know how old they are when we learn their anniversary.
Oh, yes. Anniversaries. Here we go again. 3 more movies dug from history to find out if Steve has seen them or not, and find out a little bit of trivia around them. So, Steve, just to go back to our youth. Let's go back 40 years.
Ooh. Back when I was 3.
I know. 40 years ago this week, the Chuck Norris movie Lone Wolf McQuade was released.
I'm going to say no, I haven't seen that, but mainly because I've not seen any Chuck Norris movies.
Yeah,
I have seen movies in which Chuck Norris has appeared, like Dodgeball, but not Chuck Norris movies.
You don't miss much, to be honest. Lone Wolf McQuade was directed by Steve Carver, another director we lost just recently, I believe. He directed Chuck Norris in An Eye for an Eye, also starring Christopher Lee. Yes, Sauron himself.
Saruman the Wise.
Also directed movies called The Wolves and Steel. No, not Shaq Steel, but another movie called Steel. You can put the poster up right there. Pow. There you go. Hit the microphone too. Lone Wolf McQuade is basically, it's Chuck Norris. He's a lawman. He's out in the desert. And he's facing off against his typical 80s rent-a-villain in David Carradine. Yes, Kung Fu's David Carradine. Death Race 2000's David Carradine. That guy who likes to hang in his wardrobe, David Carradine. Oh,
well,
dear.
I'm just really glad that when he took the part, he didn't choke.
If any episode we're getting sued on, it's this one. The Carradine estate is going to get us.
Yeah, he knew when to open his mouth and when to belt up. Yeah.
Bill will love this episode. Keep it in. Right. So naturally, the end of your movie is going to have a huge fight between Chuck Norris and David Carradine. They used no stunt doubles for that end fight. They actually did.
That makes sense.
They actually did fight each other, and apparently Chuck Norris was very critical of David Carradine's martial arts skills, saying that he's as good a martial artist as I am an actor.
Damn! Oh, that's a self-burn. That's rare. Ooh.
That is. Amazingly, David Carradine had a clause in his contract for this film, and apparently other movies as well, that he could not be killed on screen in hand-to-hand combat.
Okay.
So that was some pure macho stuff by the day. So how do you kill him in this? Like this. That's right. With a grenade.
You like giving me work to do with these cutaways, don't you?
Yeah. I have to because it adds to the comedy. This was, as I remember it, it was shot in a very Sergio Leone style. And I think Steve Carver was a fan of Sergio Leone because this movie really does feel like a mix of Sergio Leone and Sam Peckinpah style from the 70s,
right,
transferred over to the 80s. A funny story about this, obviously we all know that Chuck Norris went on to become Walker, Texas Ranger, Eyes of a Ranger, Unsuspected Stranger, Danger, whatever. The producers of...
What the hell are you talking about?
Here's a
I'm the one
music
that's been
cue
drinking
so you know what I'm
gin.
talking about.
In
In the eyes of a ranger, the unsuspecting stranger had better know the truth of wrong from right.
Yeah. Walking Texas Ranger was a series that Chuck Norris was in. You must know that.
Yes,
Okay.
I just don't know what the theme tune is. Okay.
Well, the producers of this movie, then working for Orion at the time, ended up in the 1990s suing the makers of Walker Texas Ranger for basically what they feel was completely lifting the character and everything from this movie. And it's not. It's nothing like it. Orion actually had to apologize to the makers of Walker Texas Ranger.
Okay, slight detour, but keeping in with the whole Lord of the Rings thing from earlier. There is a story going around at the moment that Jeff Bezos, Amazon, and the Tolkien estate is being sued for about $250 million by a guy who wrote fan fiction about Lord of the Rings in the like 2000s to the 2010s, and he's now claiming that the plot of the Rings of Power TV series is infringing on his books. So where there's a will, there's a payday, I guess.
Or not, in that case.
I don't know.
This has its own drinking game, this movie. By the amount of times Ranger is said in this movie. If you take a shot every time, I guarantee you will not make it past 15 minutes. And there's another interesting little thing that I actually had to Google after watching it again this week. Because I spotted something when they're doing a panoramic shot of El Paso.
Been there.
Yeah. Well, when you see this panoramic shot of El Paso in this clip that you are going to put up, you will notice that there is a very small traffic accident that happens in the background between a blue car and a white truck. So this might be one of those instances where, you know, someone has actually had a real life collision and it's been caught while the movie is being made.
The red car and the blue car had to race.
The love interest on this movie was Barbara Carrera, who you may have known of being in 2 movies that year. This and the James Bond movie Never Say Never Again. Though not an official Bond movie, that would just be ridiculous.
I have seen Never Say Never Again. I'll be damned if I can remember what she looks like, though.
Is it like the James Bond movie with Mr. Bean in it?
Yes, it was his first role. It was a remake of Thunderball because the rights holders basically had an option for that particular story, which was then split between Eon Productions and this lot.
Yeah.
So they were able to go off and do their own thing.
Whereas Thunderball is a brilliant movie, Never Say Never is not a brilliant movie.
Yeah, but it also features James Bond jumping off a tower on a horse.
Well, if you want to talk about jumping off, let's talk about Barbara Carrera here, because every time I hear that name, I remember a sex scene she did with Michael Paré in a movie called Spanish Rose, also known as Point of Impact, which is so ludicrous, so ludicrous, that you've just got to include it right here.
Oh, stop giving me work!
You'll thank me. You'll thank me later. This
we're going to get demonetized.
I know. This does hold a record, and a very obscure record.
Do tell.
Chuck Norris performed the highest reported filmed kick jumping from a crouching position in this movie.
Okay, that's pretty interesting.
Yeah. And you can see it in this clip right here.
Yeah!
I'm sorry.
No more clips!
No more clips, even though we've got 2 more anniversaries to go. But yeah, 40 years ago this week, Lone Wolf McQuade, and I thought that was kind of an interesting one to throw out there.
Oh, I hate you so much. What's the next one?
Now, 10 years ago this week, Steve, a movie called Oblivion was released.
Oh, that was the Tom Cruise one. Right. I have a problem with Tom Cruise insofar as I'm not a big fan. And he keeps doing sci-fi. And more to the point, he keeps doing sci-fi that I probably would like. Yes. But I don't actually want to watch the sci-fi because I don't like watching him. So therefore, I've not seen Oblivion. I've not seen Edge of Tomorrow.
Oh.
because I don't want to watch him.
Does that mean you've not seen War of the Worlds or Minority Report either?
I did see Minority Report. I just remember like Carey Mulligan in a tank somewhere. That's it.
That wasn't Carey Mulligan.
Who was it then?
It was shit.
Could have sworn that was Carey Mulligan.
No, it's not Carey Mulligan. It's oh my god, what's her name?
Anyway, you'll be able to find out the actress's name because it's right here.
I'm joking. Right, so you haven't watched Oblivion.
I haven't watched Oblivion, no.
Okay.
I know the twist, but no.
This is the movie that kind of gets forgotten about in Joseph Kosinski's resume. Because obviously now with Top Gun Maverick, he is, one of the most prolific directors. He saved cinema along with Tom Cruise. But he also directed Only the Brave, which was the forest fire movie that was actually pretty good. And of course, Tron Legacy. And I'm a huge Tron Legacy fan. I thought it was a great follow-up to Tron.
Looks fantastic in 3D.
Yes.
Well,
so.
if you can track down a 3D TV, it's well worth watching on that. And the soundtrack is superb, and it's made even better with the reconfigured version where all the tracks are remixed. It's,
It is.
Chef's kiss.
It is. Chef's kiss. It is amazing. On the set of Oblivion, Tom Cruise turned 50 years old.
Really?
Yes. And looks...
Did the thick stone
21.
in his palm start beeping?
Apparently so. Well, apparently so, because he was also divorcing Katie Holmes right around this time as well, during the making of this movie. This script for this movie was one of the most heavily auctioned scripts in Hollywood at the time. Every studio was bidding on it. And originally Disney did get a hold of it for a very short time until they realized they could not make a PG-13 version of the movie. So Universal ended up scooping it up and running with it. This film also starred Olga Kurylenko. I think I've got that name right.
Yeah.
Also starred Andrea Riseborough. And apparently she was not a fan of her time on this movie. I don't think she enjoyed this. I think she actually rates this as one of the worst experiences she's had of making a film, and it's probably due to all of the blue screen and stuff like that. Any other reason it could be, we're not sure. We're not going to speculate.
No.
What you may not know about this, Steve, and I know you know about your comic books, this was actually based on an unpublished comic book.
Oh.
Yes. Written by Joseph Kosinski. So before he got into movies, he was actually a comic book artist and actually created the comic of it, but it went unpublished. So this was a major project for him. Now, the movie was released around this time, but one city did not show it when it opened. Do you know which one?
I don't. But I'm guessing it's wherever the movie was set because they didn't want to upset the people. No? Okay.
Okay. It actually had a late premiere. It was not released on the weekend that it should be. The main reason it was not released in Boston was due to the fact that the manhunt for the Boston bomber was still going on and all businesses had to close, so the theatres had to close at that time. So Boston was the only place that got it later than everywhere else by a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
It went on to make $286 million on a $120 million budget. So,
do you remember when that was a good return?
Yes.
And then like the Avengers came along and everyone thinks if a movie doesn't make $1 trillion, then it's a failure.
Yeah. The good old days.
Yeah.
When they used to release stuff like Fair Game. But yes, it wasn't originally Olga Kurylenko who started in this movie in that role. It was Jessica Chastain. But Jessica Chastain had an opportunity come up to star in a lead role for Zero Dark 30, which she really, really wanted to do. She spoke with Tom Cruise and the producers and the director, and apparently they were very understanding of it and granted her a release to go and make that movie.
Okay, well, I suppose it works out quite well, because I know that Olga Kurylenko was doing really well around about this time, because she'd been the first Hitman movie. I think she'd been in a Bond film.
Max Payne.
Max Payne. So, yeah, her stock was pretty high for a while, and I'm not really sure what's happened to her over the last
she's in Marvel
10
now.
years or so.
So,
is she?
Yeah, she plays the Grim Reaper. In the villain in Black Widow, and she's returning for the Thunderbolts as well. The score of this movie is really good by Joseph Trapanese. It's worth checking out. And in a little bit of trivia, this also holds a very good statistic. Steve, this was the first ever film to be mixed completely in Dolby Atmos.
Good.
Yeah, Bill would know all about that. He knows. But yes, this was the first movie to have that on.
I know, I just don't want to spoil the Atmos.
Spoiling the Atmos.
Oh. But yes, Oblivion. 10 years old this week. Happy birthday, Oblivion.
Yes, happy birthday. So what is going to be our third movie this week?
Okay, the third movie. Instead of going in the direct 10s backwards, I'm going to take a little bit of a detour out to go 12 years.
Interesting.
I wanted to mention this because I saw it again this week and then realised it was released right on this week, 12 years ago. Have you seen, Steve, a movie called Grave Encounters?
No.
Okay. Grave Encounters was one of your kind of found footage horror movies.
Okay.
And this one was... It is a pure riff on the ghost hunting shows that you see, throughout the States now that have kind of all latched onto the most haunted craze.
Yeah, ghost adventures with Zach Baggins and.
Can you make a noise for us? Try and scare us?
We're back to Lord of the Rings references again, aren't we?
Zach Baggins.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Well, yeah, Grave Encounters is actually one of the best versions of it that you will ever see. This was directed by 4 people. Colin Minahan, who was the director on a movie called Extraterrestrial and another one called What Keeps You Alive. It was also directed by Stuart Ortiz, who was the writer of Extraterrestrial and other movies with Colin Minahan. And the Vicious Brothers. Jonas will be there like, the Vicious Brothers. Yes, who also worked on the same. So they basically worked on all the same films, but this movie was directed by all 4 of them. So I think this was probably their first major movie that came out of there. They filmed this movie in 10 nights and 2 days.
All right. I'm guessing there's going to be like a Blair Witch Last Broadcast kind of vibe to it.
Yeah, it is all on that. And these films are kind of simpler to make, but this one has had a lot of effort put in. And this was filmed at the Riverview Hospital, which has been featured in so many movies, and the X-Files, Session 9, loads of stuff up in Canada.
For the record, The Last Broadcast is better than the Blair Witch Project.
It's a good point.
Carry on.
But I do love me some Blair Witch. This movie actually debuted at Tribeca, which is something, as I mentioned, from Jen McGowan's episode that you just recently saw, where we talked about Tribeca. This movie debuted there, and the teaser trailer for it scored 30 million views.
Wow.
For a movie that is not a major blockbuster, a small independent movie shot over 10 nights and 2 days scored 30 million views on its trailer.
How? Okay, well, you brought this up on the last few episodes. So here's the question. 30 million views on the trailer. What was their return against their initial budget?
Well, I'd reckon it was definitely high, because this has since become a cult film. It was a box office success. I can't find the exact figure. Or probably I just didn't look into it that much. But it did go on to spawn a sequel. It was supposed to be a third as well, but apparently I think the sequel didn't do as well as expected. So they didn't make the third one, but they still hoped that they would make a third one. I'm a big fan of Grave Encounters. I thought it was great. I almost met the producer of it as well at one point. We were supposed to get together for a coffee, and I was leaving that afternoon, so I couldn't do it.
Right.
The script was only 85 pages long. Right? Most of the movie is improvised.
Yeah, I was going to say, because most scripts, like a 90-minute script, you're looking at about 120 pages, aren't you?
Yeah. So,
thereabouts.
Roughly. A lot of people say, oh, the 1 page, 1 minute. It's not. You know,
no, because
it's not.
No, because getting back to Lord of the Rings for a second, the whole scene of the bridge of Khazad-dûm, sorry, the stairs of Khazad-dûm, when they're coming down the stairs, and there's a whole sequence where they're firing the arrows at the goblins, and the staircase breaks. In the script, it just says they run down the stairs, and yet the scene itself takes up several minutes worth of screen time. So, yeah, I agree with you. The whole 1 page equals 1 minute rule is absolute garbage.
Garbage. It's just a way for people who are generally too lazy to actually read a full script will be like, yeah, can I read this in an hour and a half? But, Grave Encounters is 12 years old this week. It's definitely worth a watch if you can find it. I think it was on Amazon Prime just recently. And, you know, it was a great kind of early movie, probably a debut for Minahan Ortiz and the Vicious Brothers, who have gone on to do some really, really great movies.
I've got to be honest, it's the first time that I've heard of that one. And it does sound like it's right in my wheelhouse. That sounds like it's something that I would really, really enjoy, because I like that kind of stuff. I kind of like found footage.
Well, Grave Encounters is among the best ones. I may place it above The Last Broadcast.
Oh, really? Okay.
Personally, I would, because there is moments in that genuinely made me shit my pants. It was full on Gino Bolognese.
Gino Giuseppe Gianluca Bolognese.
No, that was coming out the other end.
Yeah. Well.
If you don't know what we're talking about, then it's this scene here.
Oh, that's an esteemed actor for you. Showing up in a bottom movie. This is brilliant. But anyway.
Oh, dear.
12 years old this week. Grave Encounters. Check it out if you can find it. You can find it everywhere. You can find everything nowadays. And why don't you just add to that trailer view as well?
Yes. But for now, though, it's a very specific question that needs answering.
What's in the box? What's in the box? What's in the box? What's in the box?
What's in the box is the question we ask every single week in order to educate Steve's movie knowledge and experience. But Steve, explain the rules of What's in the Box.
Okay, well, the rules of What's in the Box are very, very simple. Andy is going to pick out the name of a film from a box which is certified fresh on Rotten Tomatoes. Now, if I have seen it, then he keeps pulling out names of movies until we find one that I haven't seen, and then I go away and watch it the day before we record our next episode. It's simple.
Easy.
So simple that I've lost count of the number of times that I've messed up that speech.
It should be just second nature by now.
Yes.
Okay. But festivities do not start without the music. Thank you, Bruce. Okay. Steve.
Yes.
Are you ready for the first choice?
No, but hit me with it anyway.
Okay. 1995.
Okay.
Apollo 13.
Oh, it's a cracking film. Yes.
Oh,
yes, I've seen that one. I've seen that one numerous times.
One down. Okay. Are you ready for number 2? Such a childish show. It really is. Okay. Oh. Okay.
I'm not sure I like those noises. What have you got?
Steve, have you seen Caddyshack?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm alright.
Are you? Right. Okay.
It's debatable.
We're going on for number 3.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. I believe you haven't seen this, unless you have watched it since.
Okay.
So, a fair few episodes back, you watched Rocky, right?
Okay.
Now you have to visit 2006's Rocky Balboa.
Oh, right. Okay. Now I'm actually going to be stating my case on this one.
For fuck's sake.
No, I haven't seen Rocky Balboa. So if I go away and watch that now, then it will be keeping with the rules of what's in the box. However, I also haven't seen Rocky 2, 3, 4, or any of the others in between. So by going to Rocky Balboa, is that then going to taint the movies that I then may watch in between then or not?
Now, you see, that's going to be a hard one.
That's what she said.
None of the others are in the box. So, this is a kind of crucial decider. We've never come across this kind of situation before.
We haven't, because you can see my point, can't you?
Yes, put it away. That's a tough one. I mean, do you want to actually watch all the other Rockies?
Well, I do want to watch this one because everything that I've heard has said that Rocky Balboa is a massive improvement. It's probably one of the best in the series since the original, or at least the original 2. But
I mean, the stuff that happens in between that is kind of moves the kind of story of Rocky along, I guess. God, this is a tough one.
Okay, I'll tell you what I'm going to do, because this is a definite thing which needs to be decided right here and right now. Otherwise, this episode is going to go on for ages. So I've got my phone here.
Yeah.
Right. I am going to ask Siri to give me a number. If it is an odd number, then I don't watch it. If it's an even number, then I will.
Okay.
Okay. So here we go, and I'm gonna let me just turn the thing on so we can all hear it. I'll get it close to my.
I've got another one held up anyway. So.
Hey Siri, give me a random number between 1 and 10.
It's 10.
So that means
it's an even number. That means that I have to wait until I've seen the other ones before we do this one. Okay. Ooh, this has never happened before. Let's get... Okay. Next one.
Now fucking with the box.
I am fucking with the box.
Okay. Well, just
before midnight.
I had an extra one.
Sorry,
if that's before midnight, you're gonna be like shit. Okay, next. Oh, okay. No, I don't think you've seen this one. Okay. Why do I have a feeling this is 2007? I've got to look this up.
Jesus Christ!
Hang on a minute. This is going to be genius. I've got to check on this. If this is, then you've seriously asked for this.
Back to 2007 again, please. No.
It's your prison. Oh my god, it's 2007.
Oh my god.
Okay, you're going to be watching Tom Hanks, Julia Roberts, Philip Seymour Hoffman in Charlie Wilson's War.
No, I have not seen that one. It is not part of a series. I will be watching Charlie Wilson's War.
Perfect. Back to 2007. What is going on?
Fucking hell.
We're in some circle of hell.
It's the center of the movie universe.
It is.
Everything all links back to 2007 in some way.
Something must have happened in that year. They're trying to tell us something. So
yeah.
Let's get our mashed potato like cloud out. Or hill, whatever it is. But yes, Charlie Wilson's War. That will be coming next week. And also coming next week, it is a guest episode.
Ooh. So, who's the guest that we have, Andrew?
We have an amazing actress, producer, television host as well. Sarah Hennessy is going to be joining us, and it's going to be she is absolutely wonderful. She's someone that I've wanted to have on the show for a while. I think she's got an amazing story to tell, and you're just going to be completely won over by her.
Okay, I cannot wait. This is going to be a great episode, so do not miss it. In the meantime, if you want to talk to us about anything that we've discussed in this episode, including our really, really childish sense of humour, and also the name Gino Bolognese.
Gino Giuseppe Gianluca Bolognese.
Then while Andy's laughing, you can go to the links below. You can join us on facebook.com/Poddywood. You can hit us up on Twitter @Poddywood. You can join us on the r/Poddywood subreddit. You can hit us up on LinkedIn. And you can also get us on Patreon. Tell us what they get on Patreon, Andy.
Well, if you sign up for Patreon for the price of a coffee, or
£3.
£3. For £3, you can actually get the audio versions of these episodes prior to the video version coming out. So if you're in the gym, maybe you're in the car, maybe you just want to fall asleep at night by listening to our melodious tones, you can do it before this video episode gets released. And plus, you can also listen to previously unheard of and unreleased episodes, including the Poddywood After Dark specials. Yes. I'd love to see After Dark return. We should do just a one-off episode of Poddywood After Dark in the main show.
Yeah, we do like an After Dark once a month.
Yeah,
not every week, just like once a month. Just like put it out there for the Patreon people.
Luxurious jazz bar setting
with Howard, Bernard, Mike, Ben, Tom, the bartender, whoever it is that week.
I actually listened to the older episodes of After Dark, and it's amazing that every single week we were in there, you could not remember the barman's name, and it was different every time.
People thought, oh, it's a running joke. It's not a running joke. I generally couldn't remember what I'd said the week beforehand.
Tom, Mark, Howard, but it just none of them were even in the same wheelhouse. No. Then you can listen to the sensational Susie on saxophone.
Yes. And all the rest of it. If you're wondering what the hell we're talking about, just head over to patreon.com/Poddywood. You'll be able to find it out. But for right now, it is a goodbye from me.
And it is a goodbye from me. And do not forget to like and subscribe.
Hit the button down there. Because YouTube, it's a pain in the bum. You got to do it. So, we'll see you next time here on Poddywood. Bye. Right, there is quite a heavy wind up here. Like those sprouts that I had.
Because you'll hear bins blowing over and everything.
Did you see that?
What was that?
I just opened the top of my water bottle and it just went. I was gonna say.
That's an outtake for the end of the show, I'm telling you.